Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shells, death slaves, herds, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks. I'm Useful Idiot. Welcome. And today let's go to the not so good old USA and talk about all the political pandering that's going on. And of course, political pandering is a old game, and it's been working for hundreds and actually thousands of years now. Where, as one observer put at one point, that there could be a parade of people going down the street, and then a politician will stand in front of it, and all of a sudden take over and take credit for whatever populism is going on at any given moment. So that's what we have going on right now, and it's a veritable shitstorm of political opportunism and pandering out there. But as usual, what always surprises me is the fact that people know all about political pandering, and they certainly can spot it in the other guys' leaders. But when their own supposed leaders are pandering to them, for some reason, it becomes stirring and politically viable. In this case, we have, of course, the liberal base is just lapping up all the political pandering and political opportunism that's going on by the leaders, taking advantage of this so-called resistance and this anti-Trump fervor. And there's all kinds of examples of it out there that I find really interesting. One of the more amusing ones, of course, is Maxine Waters talking about impeaching President Trump already, and talking about the idea that somehow Putin has invaded Korea. And so there's a good example of one political leader that's pandering and doesn't even really have any idea what they're talking about, which is, of course, the best kind of a pandering. But we have pandering going on by politicians. We have pandering going on by corporations. We have pandering going on by the media, and everybody's involved, including the alternative media. So everybody's using political opportunism and pandering in this atmosphere, and it's pretty easy to do. And one of the reasons why it's easy to do is because basically the citizenry of the United States really isn't equipped to be politically involved, and that's by design, of course, because the whole system is set up to make sure that people are really ignorant of what's going on and can be easily manipulated. And unfortunately, it just works really well. But anyway, let's go into some more of the pandering that's going on. Some of the corporate pandering is we see a lot of corporations knowing who their demographic is, and having to pander to that demographic, and they have to be very careful because sometimes it can blow up in their face or backfire. But in a lot of cases, for example, we see Starbucks talking about hiring 10,000 refugees. And of course, when you look at all the stores they have globally, spreading 10,000 refugees across all their stores really doesn't amount to much, but it sounds really good if you're doing some political pandering, and will assure that the demographic that likes to go to Starbucks will continue to do so. And so we have Apple and Uber, Netflix, Twitter, Nordstrom, all getting involved in this and all choosing sides. And a lot of these companies are obviously have a much larger liberal demographic, and they're going to choose that side, where companies like Chick-fil will go to the other side and pander to their base. And then we have, like I mentioned earlier, we have people like Maxine Waters, and we're used to people like Rudy Giuliani coming out and pandering and doing political opportunism, still talking about 9/11 16 years later, and milking that for all it's worth. And of course, Reverend Al Sharpton takes every advantage to go out and do some political pandering and political opportunism. And that, that staying out on the road a lot gives him a good excuse to not pay his back taxes. But I digress. And of course, now we have people like Dick Cheney and John McCain and Lindsey Graham and even George Bush being redeemed and being esteemed by the liberal base now because they are turning on Trump. And I think what a lot of the liberal base seems to forget, of course, is that a lot of the status quo GOP is definitely against Trump as well. So it's not like the GOP is a monolith. So to have these characters come out and speak against Trump and somehow become redeemed in the eyes of the liberal base is a pretty surprising development. And then we have the people like Liz Warren going out and giving these passionate speeches, and she's been jockeying for a position to be the presidential candidate in the next election. And there's been a lot of talk about that for a long time, and she's obviously taking advantage of this situation to stir people up and get some interest in her campaign. And right now it looks fairly potent, although I've seen some mixed reviews about how Liz Warren is being accepted. And then all her grandstanding in Congress and all the drama of that is all political pandering and political opportunism. And I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Once they start pandering, they actually get themselves excited, and they actually probably somehow semi-believe in some of the crap they say, like John Lewis talking about not attending the inauguration, of course, and he'd done that before, so all the drama of his proclamation was ended up being empty, but more political opportunism by him. And then that whole battle between Trump and Schwarzenegger, which is perfect. I mean, that's the kind of political show business that we have in this country now. We got a showdown between Trump and Schwarzenegger. And of course, for Schwarzenegger, it's great because apparently his version of the Apprentice program has been taking a dump on as far as the viewership, and so this may help jumpstart the program that Trump, ironically, used to do and be quite popular at. And then we have, of course, some of these celebrities coming out doing a lot of political pandering and taking this opportunism to somehow be viewed as activists. And I just find that all really disgusting, but it's perfect. I mean, this is America, and politics and showbiz are the same thing. So to have people like Ashley Judd, Madonna come out and give these ridiculous speeches is just all part of the picture. I mean, like they say, Washington D.C. is Hollywood for ugly people, and then all these spoon-fed, silver spoon-fed, pampered Hollywood celebrities come out and talk about all the injustices in the world is really pretty hilarious. And then we have, like I say, the corporate pandering. Apparently, Amazon said they're going to hire 100,000 people in the next 18 months across the U.S. So they're going kind of the opposite direction and taking the Trump bump, and so pandering to their own base. And then I noticed too that we have this whole commodifying of the resistance. So now we have the liberal base talking about this new ongoing resistance, and we already have people lining up and using that as a focal point for this new pandering and political opportunism. I got an email from Ben Stuckert running for Congress, and he talked all about, quote, the resistance is growing, join us, unquote. And he talks about the first few weeks of the Trump presidency have exceeded even his worst fears. And so they're all cashing in on this new so-called resistance to Trump. And but like I say, it's pretty disingenuous. I mean, I'm not sure if anybody really believes that any of these people believe any of this stuff. A good example is Chuck Schumer getting up there with all his props, all his surrounded by refugees, and then spilling these crocodile tears. And it's just really disgusting to watch, but it really works. I mean, people that want to believe that narrative believe it. And there's a great analysis of Chuck Schumer's body language, and I will attach that below, and all the other links that I always attach below, so you can look at some of this information. But it's just really what a spectacle, seeing all this just blatant opportunism and pandering. And like I say, just how disgusting it is, because that's what people want to believe, and that's what they want to hear, and these politicians will deliver especially when they know exactly the message they want to give. A good example of that is Jay Inslee. Of course, he jockeyed for a position and is now the governor of Washington State, and he completely pandered to the base here. And now, as predictable as it always is, there's discussions of Jay Inslee running for president, because he got a great national profile. Washington State became a real focal point for the resistance, and being called one of the most liberal states in the union. And I live in Washington State, and I can attest to that. And Jay Inslee is definitely just another opportunist, and he is completely pandering. But like I say, that's what everybody wants to believe. So they're passing around these stirring Jay Inslee speeches and how defiant he is against the Trump administration around on their Facebook pages and cheering him on. So obviously it's working great. But we have the corporate Democrats who are against Trump, so they are going to pander and completely use this for political opportunism to try and realign the Democrats away from Bernie Sanders and some of the more rogue elements and go back to the corporate Democratic Party that Hillary represented. And then we'll continue to see the distortions rolling on. And that's part of all the pandering and all the opportunism is just all the rampant spread of all the disinformation and all the distortions and stories that come out in the press, and then the politicians jump on that bandwagon and milk the same cow. So anyway, there we have it. Political pandering going on at an epic scale right now, and people just lapping it up. And there you have it. Keeps on working. Why not use it for thousands of years as long as it keeps working so easily and so effectively? I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.